help support, the youth and get entrepreneurship and enterprise into schools. Do you think that's an important thing for you and for kids coming behind you in school?
Yeah, definitely. Considering, I guess, the changing nature of jobs in the future and moving away from traditional office jobs and moving into entrepreneurship, and this creativity is really important, and teaching that in schools and preparing the younger generation for that is obviously a really important aspect of education.
Yeah. So I think that's a really interesting thing. The future of jobs. We talk about future of jobs a lot, and one of the things I hear people say a lot is, in the future these jobs aren't going to be here, and in the future robots are going to take over jobs. And what I have to sort of stop and remind them is actually the future is now. It's happening now. Robots and automation are taking jobs now. So how does that sort of sit with you and your students and classmates? Does that freak you out a bit, or are you sort of preparing for it mentally for the future?
I think definitely it's a bit intimidating. Obviously, you don't want a robot to take your job, but I think initiatives like this are really important to kind of centre ourselves and realise that creativity is the future, and if we prepare for that, then we should be fine.
Right.
Yeah.
And so there's a really interesting guy by the name of Howard Tolman, and Howard is a sort of a futurist and a thought leader around education, and he's a tech sort of guru guy. He's been around for years, but one of the things he said, which is really interesting, that in the future and sort of starting from now, that you're going to actually have to create your own job.
I've heard that, actually. It's a very interesting concept, a bit spooky.
So I think that we're seeing a bit of that with the emergence of digital nomads. There was a stat that I read that said that 1.2 billion people by the year 2020 are going to consider themselves a digital nomad. So working and operating from anywhere, and the idea of not commuting to cities so much, and sort of. So is that something that excites you for the future? Does it? I guess the other thing is that a lot of young people saying they're aspiring to be YouTubers or have a digital nomad life rather than going and commuting into the city and working in an office job. Is that something that you get excited about the future?
Yeah, I think definitely. As we're obviously as a society moving away from the 9-to-5 job, like we're moving towards more contract things where you sign on with a company just for a little bit or go on your own line as an entrepreneur, and I think that's definitely really exciting.
Yeah, so I think the idea of getting a job, going to uni, getting a job, and then staying in that corporate job for 25 years or something, sort of the days are over. Definitely. Would you say?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So you've got to prepare yourself to be able to do lots of jobs, sort of lots of little project type work, but it keeps it interesting, right?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's probably better to be able to have that versatility and be able to move between jobs in a sense than being stuck with one thing.
So I think, from my perspective, one of the most critical skills an entrepreneur can have, or that an entrepreneur has, inherently or has developed and learnt over their time, is critical thinking and problem solving.
Yeah.
So do you see that as a really important skill that schools and education need to embrace?
Yeah, definitely. And I think about this festival is definitely what they're trying to promote, that creativity and that identifying a problem that you can work to solve, like that niche market kind of thing.
Yeah. So finding a problem that you want to solve that's going to help a lot of people.
Yeah, exactly.
And if you solve that problem well, then a lot of people are going to want your product or your service or whatever it is to help them solve that product. So you said you were on a panel yesterday, or you facilitated a panel. What was that all about?
So me and Sam, who was the other school captain, interviewed 7 of the entrepreneurs in front of an audience, and it was really great to just hear their stories and hear them communicate as a group of successful entrepreneurs and hear their advice to young people who want to attain or be an entrepreneur in the future. Yeah.
So if you had sort of 1 or 2 key takeouts from that session, what did you walk away from that session with?
I think definitely a big emphasis was on persistence. If an idea that you have doesn't work in the first place, you can't give up there. You have to keep trying and persisting. Another thing is definitely like play to your market kind of thing. If you want something to take off, you have to find something that people will like. Yeah.
So I guess in summarising that, a lot of people build a product that no one actually wants.
Exactly. Yeah.
So the first thing is to find a product that people actually want to buy, and the next thing is that resilience, that you've just got to keep on keeping on.
Yeah, of course.
And keep going no matter what. Even when times are tough, sometimes those times are where it brings the the opportunities to the surface.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
so keep on keeping on.
Yep, keep on keeping on.
Okay. So on that note, Rosie, thanks very much for chatting with us today.
Thank you.
All the best for the festival today. I think it's fantastic. It's the first, I believe, someone said,
Yeah, it
of,
is.
of this in Australia. Is that right?
Yeah, I've heard that as well.
Yeah. And I think we're going to see a whole lot more schools follow along. So great. Thanks for your leadership and thanks for
you.
talking with us today,
No
Rosie.
worries.
Thank
Cheers.
you.